It is podcast time finally at Keystone tomorrow. We're doing it a little bit earlier today. That's Saturday because I got something to do tomorrow night at my school, and we wanted to get it in. So today we're gonna make a podcast. It's Saturday night. Nick, we had some good basketball over the last week, especially today with some good college basketball. We're probably gonna talk about some of that. Spend most of the time on that, and then spend a lot of time on the NHL. And then the last part of the podcast, I think we will talk about this fun MLB stuff, our rankings for MLB stuff before next week when we get into the actual teams and their rosters. So let's get started with the college basketball. Nick, you said you wanted to talk to me about that. Let's jump right in.
Oh yeah, so right now we have a really big top five matchup going on down in Kentucky, which Kentucky is winning, and that's a huge game for both teams. Tennessee is the number one team in the country, and they've won 19 straight games. Kind of not out of nowhere, but you definitely don't think of Tennessee as a basketball school, so this is definitely a shocker. Kentucky, obviously, always the top team in the SEC. They were always terrible at football, but everybody said their replacement was basketball. Now they're the second best basketball school in the SEC, as the AP would tell you. But there were also some other pretty good games today. You had Virginia beating Notre Dame, which even though Notre Dame's not even a great year, big win for Virginia still at home, conference game. So that was pretty big. This past week, though, we had some very big games, not just today. We had some good games today, though. Duke beat NC State. And, Duke's just a very interesting, story. They're always good, but this is like one of those weird months or one of those weird years where they're just even better. But this past week, we've had some interesting games. Virginia beat North Carolina. They came back and beat North Carolina. It was a big game on Monday, I believe. Tuesday, we saw Kentucky lose at home to LSU.
I'm sorry. Keep on going.
We saw Kentucky lose at home to LSU on a last-second play. And then
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, Michigan lost at Penn State, who had previously been 1-11 in conference play. Purdue, they could have moved up probably in the rankings, but they lost on Tuesday night, shooting 20 of 71 from the floor in a loss at Maryland. So it's just been a very, very crazy past week, sort of. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that, unless you want me to dive into like specifics.
No, I mean what you got was good. Obviously today Duke beat NC State. This is the normal my Iowa State team. They pulled up an upset in Kansas State, winning 78-64. But yeah, I mean all these we'll get into the time of the year now. We have about a little under 3 weeks before we start the tournament play, which will give us a good sense of who's going to be making a good run in the NCAA tournament. And there's a lot of there's a lot of teams here that I'm looking that are in the top 10, in my opinion, don't deserve to be in the top 25, my bad. I think, like as an example, I think Buffalo does not deserve to be. Yes, they're 20-3, but they haven't played as many games. I think Florida State's been very, very inconsistent throughout the year. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're very inconsistent.
Here's the thing about Buffalo. I think Buffalo before that Bowling Green loss, or maybe before that the one loss versus Northern Illinois. I think before the loss versus Bowling Green, though, they still deserve to be in. Now it's getting to the point where it's like, do you really deserve to still be in here? But I think if you take them out, then it just shows that they're so biased against the mid-majors. But, what I really don't get is just how bad Oklahoma has played recently. They're 15-10 this year, but they've lost 7 out of their last 9. And I think they're falling out of the bubble teams. I think Texas is going to be the team to possibly a team to replace them. They're 14-11. They would actually be, I think, one of the first teams of all time that would get in with such just barely being over 500. Arizona State, they have a few good wins. I think they could possibly make it.
Mm-hmm.
UCF, I still think's in this thing. They've beaten Alabama and Temple, but they lost to Florida Atlantic, so I think that could hurt them. But the two teams that I think are going to be, scratching and clawing to barely make it in are Clemson and Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Clemson with a tough loss today, I think it was.
Yeah, Clemson got a tough loss today versus Louisville, and they lost at Miami earlier this week.
Yeah.
And Arkansas has a couple of bad losses. I think those are 2 of your last teams in, probably. I think Georgetown has a nice win or two, but they have a very soft schedule. Butler's okay. Their best win, those versus Mississippi at home. And, that's really all I have for you. So I don't really think there's any other team that could possibly make this. And I think Temple is very deserving of making the NCAA tournament. It's Fran Dunphy, the coaches last year, and they've had a pretty good year. They've taken down. They're 8-4 in the American Athletic, which puts them fourth in their conference, and they beat USF today in overtime.
Hmm.
But I truly do believe this Temple team is deserving of making the NCAA tournament. They beat Georgia. They've beaten Missouri. They beat Missouri at Missouri. They've beaten Houston. They beat Houston when they were undefeated. I mean, I don't really know what else you'd want from a team. I mean, they're a pretty real. They're a really good team, and there's only each of these teams, each of these bigger bigger small these bigger conferences really only have 5 or 6 games left per team. So
Hmm.
you have to take these last games seriously, and then the conference tournaments.
Okay, so I was good. I'm just gonna go back to what I said about Buffalo, which is why I don't think they're gonna do well in the conference, in the NCAA tournament. Going to their schedule, they played St. Francis, PA. The only good team they played and then beaten is West Virginia, but they beat them in overtime. They played Dartmouth, Marist, Milwaukee. These random teams that we don't know: San Francisco, Lemoyne, St. Bonaventure, Southern Illinois, Syracuse. I guess another good team. Marquette, another good team. Kansas, that no one's heard of, Eastern Michigan, Toledo, Miami, Ohio, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois, Kent State, Ball State. So you get my point here.
Yeah,
So
I get your point, but the thing is, they're getting in no matter what because they're gonna win the conference
yes, now
tournament.
that's the thing. They're gonna get in, and now what I'm gonna say is they're not gonna go far, and this is why. Because let's say they make a 5, 6, 7 seed, right? They're gonna play a team like Kent State.
They're probably 11 seed or a 10
A
seed.
seed.
If they're a 5 or 6 seed, I am going to fucking turn off the March Madness show.
You don't know what. Yeah, I know, but they're gonna play probably maybe a better team, but probably a bad team like Ohio or Toledo or something. So let's say they win that game. Now they're gonna go play a really good seed in like maybe a UNC or a Michigan or maybe even Nevada. And they're not prepared to play those types of teams. They haven't played them all season except arguably West Virginia, and they're not even in the top 10 right, top 25 right now.
Yeah, agree. I mean, here, okay, no, I agree with you. I don't think Buffalo is gonna end up like going. I don't think Buffalo is gonna go on some like run or anything. But you know, I think Buffalo is probably I think Buffalo is better than they should have been, considering they play in the Mid American Conference. Sorry. So
Because I mean, let's see, Mid American East. They have BGSU, Kent State, Archon,
BGSU is Bowling Green, and Bowling Green has a good team.
Bowling Green State University. My bad.
Yes, they have a good team. Bowling Green is a good team.
Akron, Miami, Ohio, and Ohio. These teams are not going to prepare you for a good conference team like Michigan or North Carolina.
Yeah, but they're not going to run into a Michigan or a North Carolina until if they make it to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8.
Well, they're gonna
And
if they're a 10 seed, they're gonna play. I don't know I don't know how the bracket works, but they will play a good team. Not probably. No, I'm not saying they're gonna play like a number 1 seed, but they're gonna play a good type team before they get to the maybe in the round of 16, and they're not gonna be prepared for that.
I think if you look at the teams right now, I think Buffalo, they probably end up.
And it is early to tell. I will be honest with that.
Buffalo probably ends up as a 7 seed, and if they were a 7 seed, that means they would have to go and play a 2 seed, and then they would probably get destroyed in the round of 32. But for a program like Buffalo, going to the second round to the round of 32, that's impressive for a team like Buffalo. It might not be impressive for a team like, Virginia Tech, but it's impressive for a team like Buffalo because that's a team that isn't they don't get. I mean, they get they're a newer school. They don't get there that often. Being honest.
Yeah. No, and there's always going to be upsets in the March Madness tournament. Yes, and I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo gives a underdog win, but I just don't think they're going to go far just because of the teams who they've played and the conference they're in. Because you never see okay teams
And
go
honestly,
so far.
You have some decent games up in Hartford, right around the corner from you. You got the East. In the East, you get 2 East games. You get the 6-11 in the East and the 3-14 in the East.
Those two, and to be fair, those are the two types of seeds where their upsets happen.
Exactly, and I think if you're looking at 3 seeds, I think you guys could end up with like a Marquette
Hmm.
or an LSU or a Kansas or a Houston. You could end up with a Kansas. That'd be huge, obviously. But I
Yeah,
think
I would
out of those,
love to see Kansas.
but I think you could also end up with a Marquette or an LSU or a Houston as a 3 seed. That's obviously still a very big program. And then you guys also have the West region. You guys get the 5, 12, and 4, 13. With those 4 seeds, you could end up seeing teams that would be considered even better, like a Texas Tech,
Hmm.
a Purdue, an Iowa, Nevada. So anyway, the point is you guys are in for some pretty good games up there in Hartford, and I know Philadelphia gets some games
Are
soon.
you gonna get some?
What?
Do you get tournament games or do you
Yeah,
get?
we get tournament games. They're actually, I think they're in the next upcoming years. But this year, I am definitely considering. DC's got the regional, so I would
Yeah.
definitely consider that. I mean, DC is a train ride away. But I think the next time we get March Madness here in Philly is maybe 2020 or not
That's
2020,
far.
2021.
Oh, that's like sure. Well, no, that's far.
Uh,
I
uh,
know New York gets a. They get the ACC, I think.
no, not this year.
Not this year.
New York at the A10 this year. They don't get one of the big conferences this year and they get the Big East. Obviously, they always get the Big East.
Yeah.
But I know in 2022 we're getting the Eastern Regional, and I think in 2021 we're getting we're just getting like the first and second round.
Yeah.
But I know in 2022 we're definitely getting the regional for the East. So we'll see how that ends up. But
Yeah, and it'll be fun. We'll try to get some of those games. I think now we're gonna move on to probably the
hockey.
most. No, not hockey yet. Just quickly gonna get this out of the way because I've been asked a lot of questions about this, and I'm probably sure you've been asked, and this is probably be an ongoing debate. It's gonna be interesting with the top 4 seeds right now: Tennessee, Duke, Gonzaga, UVA. Obviously, Duke and UVA both in the East. What do you think the 1 seeds are gonna be like in the tournament?
You're asking me who I think the 1 seeds are going to be.
Yeah. Because you got 2 East seeds in the top 4.
Okay, so I think that your seed. I think Duke is your East seed. I think Duke's your East seed. Okay, I think Duke's your #1 seed in the East. I think Gonzaga is your #1 seed in the West. I think Tennessee gets the Southern seed,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Virginia gets stuck with the Midwest seed.
Do you think because UVA, yeah, because there's no one better. If Michigan really steps up, I do think Michigan can overtake.
No, I think Michigan's going to get a 2 seed, and they're probably going to get the 2 seed. Michigan is probably going to get stuck.
In the
No,
what?
Michigan will probably get Michigan will either get the East or the Midwest, unless they don't think they're good enough and they stick them in like the South.
The Midwest, Kentucky. For the 2 seed, you had Kentucky, Nevada, Michigan, UNC. UNC gets the East. Nevada gets the West. Michigan gets.
This is your thoughts. This is your thoughts.
Yeah, Michigan could get the Midwest, and UNC.
I think okay. So here's the thing. If Virginia goes to the Midwest, they are in Columbus, which isn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like Columbus, Ohio is not that bad. And then you stick Duke in South Carolina, which is perfect, and you stick Tennessee in South Carolina. That's perfect because Tennessee will be the 1 seed in the South and Duke will be the 1 seed in the East. So they'll both go to South Carolina, and then you put Gonzaga in Salt Lake. That ends up being perfect.
Yeah, but where is Gonzaga exactly?
It's
Is
in
that
Washington State.
is that Washington State? That's what I thought.
Yeah. So they'll end up in Salt Lake, Utah, which isn't that bad.
Nah, and that's close for fans and all that stuff to travel upon.
Yeah, and on the West Coast, being close to each other isn't like it is on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So Salt Lake is actually not that far. Especially when there's not really another city on the West. I mean, San Jose, but San Jose is not hosting a 1 seed. The only 1 seeds are South Carolina, Columbus, Salt Lake, and South Carolina. There's 2 South Carolina games, a Columbus and a Salt Lake. So Salt Lake would be the best one for Gonzaga. I don't think there's another team on the West Coast that could honestly take that from them.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think maybe Nevada, Nevada would have to do so much to get that 1 seed, and I think you have to give them another year or 2 to get that 1 seed. I think you have to give the 1 seed to Gonzaga. I don't really think there's another team that's going to get that 1 seed from them.
No,
Gonzaga's,
definitely not. No,
I think
because
Gonzaga's locked in the West.
uh-huh.
I think Duke has some competition from North Carolina and Michigan for that 1 seed in the East and Villanova.
Not North Carolina. North Carolina is 19-4. Duke is 21-2. So something has to go extremely wrong.
Yeah, North Carolina still plays Duke. North Carolina went that game against Duke. They jumped Duke.
Yeah,
Especially
okay.
if Duke ends up, and then Duke doesn't win the ACC tournament. Duke's maybe a 2-3 seed. They're fucked.
I
If they win that game against Duke.
that's a lot to say. Duke came back from Louisville down 23 and Louisville 16. I know that's a
And
big
Louisville's
jump.
a 6. Louisville's probably a 6 or 7 seed. North Carolina is one of the top
To
6, 7 teams in the country.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying that like because you came back from Louisville that you can easily. I think Duke will come and just win the ACC because you still got Virginia Tech in there, you still got Louisville in there, and you still got North Carolina that will all present problems to each other, and I think Duke will pull away from that. But that's just me.
It's gonna be an interesting run as we run down these last 3 weeks.
Yeah,
And,
something to keep watch over.
so let's talk about some NHL hockey.
Moving on to NHL, like I said to you guys in an earlier podcast, we won as the Penguins against the Oilers. Great win. We shot the bed against the Flames. This is a Penguins team that, in my opinion, should not make the playoffs. They do not deserve the playoffs. Or we need to figure something out right now and go on a 20-game win streak if we want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, so we'll cover the Penguins first. I'll be the nice guy. I'll cover the Penguins. But the point is, so I sort of saw some of this game, and what I can tell is that they kind of let Calgary take too much of a lead. Um, the game kind of got away from them in the second period. Calgary takes that 4-1 lead. There was a couple of bad bounces, and Matt Murray just wasn't given much of a chance. But the power play for Pittsburgh went 3 for 4, and Evgeny Malkin had 2 goals and 1 assist. But the Penguins just looked too relaxed on defense. They couldn't pull the comeback off. Crosby scored a goal. Gensel tipped a goal in. But Pittsburgh just ran out of time. Calgary is a tough team, though. They're one of the better teams in the West. And the Pens beat them 9-1 out there earlier this year. So not the worst result to split the series, but for a playoff chase, tough one to take. And the Penguins need to regroup before their big game tomorrow versus the Rangers.
Yeah, and this is a team that, on paper, they have stars. They have Malkin. They have Crosby. But when you're this inconsistent, you have to help and wonder what is going on. And especially now you get a Rangers team, yes, who's 25 and 24, and you're playing at home, but you're really inconsistent. And you played a team that you completely obliterated early in the season 9-1, like you said, and you come out with a loss at home, too. When you're beating teams like the Flyers, who always present you with problems, you beat the Oilers, who have always been a strong team. So they need to figure out a way to either stabilize themselves or just be consistently bad. You cannot, and they're hanging around 4th place right now, behind Columbus. But you got to pick a side. You're either gonna shoot up to the playoffs or you're just not gonna make. You just cannot be good and then sometimes bad.
Agree, and obviously they can win those bigger games against teams like Philly, but then when push comes to shove and they got to face Calgary, because it's not an East Coast team, they just didn't come through. And that's we're in the stretch here where you need that win come playoff time.
Yeah. Now, I know me and you both saw the Philadelphia trade that happened.
Before I know you're talking about, but the Flyers also played today. At the same time, they took on the Red Wings, and so the Flyers were up 5-1 in this game, and they would lose. They wouldn't lose. The Red Wings would make the comeback and make it 5-5 to go to overtime, where Travis Konechny would deliver the heroics in overtime for the massive escape, a 6-5 win over the Red Wings. The Flyers are now 11-1-1 in their last 13, picking up a possible 23 out of 26 points. Coming into this busy Saturday, the Flyers were 8 points back of the Blue Jackets and the Penguins, with Pittsburgh currently occupying the Eastern Conference second wildcard spot. On Saturday, the Penguins versus the Flames, they lost that game. The Blue Jackets, I think, are in Chicago tonight, and the Hurricanes are in Dallas tonight. So that's pretty big. And the Red Wings have lost twice now.
Hurricanes are home to Dallas, and they're winning 2-0. Sorry.
And the Red Wings have lost now twice to Carter Hart, and there was a few pretty, there was Carter Hart just kind of like he, very unlike himself, he allowed 2 goals in 45 seconds, which kind of made things a lot kind of interesting. He allowed 3 goals in the opening 9 minutes of the third period. He then allowed the game time goal with 4 seconds left in regulation. And Hartwig entered this game being 9-1 with a 1.81 goals against average and 9.6 save percentage. And the Flyers gave him a 3-1 lead at the second intermission, and they were ultimately able to hold on as he would finish with 35 saves. But, that was just not great. But the second power play was pretty good. Konechny is on the second power play, hit a goal for them. And that was Konechny's career high fifth power play goal of the year. The Flyers would go 1 for 2 in the power play. And after the game, the Flyers sent Mikhail Groverov back to Lehigh Valley. And the Flyers and the Red Wings are right back at it tomorrow at 6 o'clock in Detroit for the second half of the home and home. Scott Gordon said that the aforementioned Cam Talbot will not be available. The Flyers then host the Lightning on Tuesday, visit the Canadiens on Thursday, and welcome the Penguins Saturday night in prime time at the Lincoln Financial Field.
Who do you think will get to start, Talbot or Hart on Saturday night?
Oh, not even close. Carter Hart will get the start come Saturday night. And if that means that they have to start Cam Talbot on Thursday, they will do it.
Okay. I mean, beat you once. I think we can do it again. Just give me some quick sports updates, which I probably won't do because you guys will probably watch it later tomorrow. So there's no point in telling you what's happening now if you're watching it later. There's some quick standing updates. Obviously, Tampa Bay, Toronto, Boston. Top 3 in the Eastern. Islanders, Washington, Columbus, and the Metropolitan. We have Western, Winnipeg, Nashville, St. Louis. In the Central Pacific, we got Calgary, San Jose, Vegas. And yeah.
So before we jump into the MLB, which I'm assuming you want to do within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I want to talk about the Flyers' chance at going to the playoffs, which is very, quite slim. But exactly 1 month ago, I believe to the day, the Flyers were last place in this league. So that's, it just shows you how much can do. But the teams that we need to catch are Columbus. Okay, Columbus has won, I believe, 4 straight. I think Columbus could fail to make the playoffs. Their 2 biggest guys, Artemi Panarin and Bobrovsky, are on the trade bait list. Panarin is currently 18th in the league in points. He's one of the best players in hockey, and I don't see the Blue Jackets receiving a player of his caliber back should they trade him at the deadline. And if I think Panarin gets moved, this would be really bad for the Blue Jackets, very good for teams like the Flyers and the Canadiens, or not Flyers and Canadiens, Flyers and the Hurricanes. And I think that would easily slide them down the standings and probably out of the playoffs. The other team that is also within our reach is the Capitals. They just haven't been as good. They haven't been as good as I would think this year. Their strength of schedule is not that good, or it's very hard. So a lot of people say that they're going to be in the second wild card spot. Ovechkin's shooting at around 17%, which is about 5%, about 5% under his career average, or above his career average. Sorry. And what if their offense tries up? Brandon Obi's been great, but would that be enough to get them through it? So, and then the Penguins, the absolute best, most fun scenario for the Flyers to bump the Pens out of the playoffs. Until the Pens win the draft lottery and we have to play Jack Hughes.
Okay.
But getting back, the Penguins are technically the easiest team for the Flyers to catch based on points. And they're a team that can turn. I think a team like the Penguins, they can get good at any moment. The Pens don't have an easy schedule. They have to play 12 games against playoff teams, and they have 6 against Carolina, Buffalo, and Philly, who are very good teams. The Penguins, I think they are probably going to make the playoffs, but they do have a lot of tough games ahead of them. But the Flyers can't rely on these other teams. I think the cutoff for making the playoffs is 96 points. So the Flyers, we need to get 37 points over the next 25 games. So I think that means that if they would have to, if they want to hit 96 points, I think if they want to win, they'd have to make it 12. But that would be if all their losses were to go to overtime. I think what they need to do is they need to go 17, 5, and 3. Which is very hard to do. They've just won 8 straight games to allow this to happen. And even if you do that, that might not be enough for Carolina and Buffalo to not get bumped off. Anyway, if the Flyers lose 7 more games in regulation, they are completely out of it. Not like mathematically eliminated, but they're pretty much out of it. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, just giving you what you said about the Penguins. We still got in this month. We still got obviously the Rangers. We got Devils, Sharks, you guys again, and the Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets will be a great game for us to catch up on. On ESPN, it doesn't say we play any games in March, which is obviously not true. And then in April, so this ESPN app is really messed up right now. But yeah, obviously look to see how the Flyers will do in the next. I think March will be a huge indicator to see what teams will make the playoffs, and you have to start off strong. You said you have to score at least 30. You have to have at least 30 points to make the playoffs. And I think
we have to go 17-5-3.
And I think to do that, you need to start off your month strong. And I think to do that, I think you got to beat us in the Stadium Series because that's going to boost your momentum into the into March.
You know what? That was the good thing about this team. They didn't get mad when they lost the Penguins because they understood that there was some bad calls and that Matt Murray was on top, playing off his head, playing insanely good, and they understand there was also some bad officiating, so they weren't as mad, and they didn't get as down as they used to back in the day.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you said, yeah, bad officiating, but I think the main thing that they thought about is yes, we lost. Matt Murray played great, but we're playing them in a much bigger stadium, in a much louder atmosphere in like 10 days.
Approximately 70,000 people. That is over 3 times as many that were there on Monday night.
Yeah. So
right before we get into baseball, very sorry to cut you off, but right before we get into baseball, when you do need to talk about this, Anthony Stolarz, Anthony Stolarz, Cam Talbot trade with Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing with this. I like Carter Hart, but no team in the league was going to back up a 21-year-old starter with a goalie that had 20 games and 2 knee surgeries to his knee. Even with a guy like Hart, who's shattering all expectations for what a goalie his age can do, there's a lot of prediction involved with guys this young. As soon as the Flyers were able to say with confidence that Carter Hart was their goalie, their backup goalie became one in which the team probably was looking for more stability. And when you consider that Stolarz was likely going to be a free agent this summer, he would have needed to play in at least 10 out of the 25 games for him not to be a free agent. He would need to play at least 10 more games this year. And I don't really think that'd be happening with the way Hart's been playing. There's a pretty good chance he was going to get offers from other teams that could offer him more of a shot at a starting role than the Flyers could have. And so I think this is a pretty good deal for the Flyers. But, okay. Like, Talbot will likely start for the Flyers at some point soon, perhaps even on Tuesday. When that happens, the Flyers will set NHL record. No other team in the history of the NHL has played 8 different goalies in 1 year. Thanks to injuries, bad risk, and one good risk, the Flyers have had more goalie churn this year than any team in the history of this league. Also, we should note there's still 7 weeks left in the year. Plenty of time to pick up at least 2 more goals. Nothing is more Flyers than that. And yet somehow, despite playing more goalies in the year than any team in the history of this league, the Flyers are going to leave this year feeling better about their goaltending situation than they have in 30 years. It's nice that we can, that we actually care about the backup more than we do the starter. Because last year, the last 30 years, this team's been wondering who the hell is going to be our starter. Now we're wondering who are we going to back up our phenomenal starter with. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a good trade for the Flyers. I think because Cam Talbot, he's having a rough year so far.
And he's a veteran too.
But yeah, he's a veteran, but he's having a rough year. He's had 2 years the Oilers starter where he finished with a save percentage above league average. So his history points toward this year being an outlier. And with the trade being one goal for another, this doesn't change much to our current situation. So he's dead last in save percentage and he's 28th in goals against average. But I think that this is just an outlier year, and his relationship with Carter Hart definitely helps.
Yeah. So when I thought about this trade, I thought it was a really good trade, and for the reasons you mentioned. But I'm thinking bigger picture here, and I know, like you said, he didn't have the greatest of years, but I can only think back to the time where Matt Murray and when we won the first Stanley Cup, and even the second Stanley Cup, where Marc-Andre Fleury didn't have the best of years. He probably had one of his worst years of his career. Yet he was called on to play. So God forbid something happens to Carter Hart and Cam Talbot has to go in. I think he will be that veteran leader who can lead this Flyers team to past rounds, to Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even to the Stanley Cup, to when Carter Hart is ready to come back and play. So I think he's more valuable than most people think, and I think that maybe with the change of scenery, we could regenerate him to get those saves and get stoppages that he needs.
Agree. And so want to move on to baseball ranking ish now.
Yeah. So what Nick and I were probably discussing, what we were discussing, is that in about a week or so, maybe a little more,
Yeah, but
we would
probably next podcast.
Yeah, probably in the next podcast, we're going to devote a video on the MLB, giving you guys, spring training's already started, giving you guys what our thoughts of each MLB team, how the offseason went for each team, how the season's supposed to go for each team. But for right now, we're going to get all of our fun rankings out of the way. We're going to do best uniforms, best rotation, best bullpen. And I know it's early, but just before we get into that, the Pittsburgh Pirates already named their opening day starter, Jameson Tyron in Cincinnati. And then our home opener will be home to the Cardinals on ESPN, and that will be Chris Archer getting the home opening start. But let's start off with the rankings. What is your favorite stadium?
Best stadium baseball?
Yeah, that cannot be the Phillies, and I can't be the Pirates.
Okay, so best stadium baseball besides the Phillies. I'd either have to go with PNC in Pittsburgh, or I'd have to go with Camden Yards in Baltimore. And my reasoning for both you are probably asking. PNC is a beautiful ballpark. You can see the bridge, the Golden Bridge. I forgot what it's called, but there's the bridge in
Clemente.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, the Clemente Bridge, and you could see all this, the mini skyscrapers that Pittsburgh has, and you could see the the river. Is that the Susquehanna or the Allegheny?
The
Susquehanna's in Harrisburg. Jesus Christ! But you can see the Allegheny. I think that's the Allegheny.
Allegheny.
So you can see the
No, it's the
Allegheny.
Monongahela. It's the Monongahela. My bad. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Sorry. So you can see the Monongahela, and it's a very small stadium. I think probably only 30,000. It's quite a small stadium, but it is, in my opinion, a very nice stadium. The only thing that is a little annoying is how you can't at Citizens Bank Park.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am so out of it today. I am so sorry. It's the Allegheny. I don't know what I was thinking.
So it is the Allegheny. Okay. So it is the Allegheny. But the point is, the annoying thing about this ballpark is that at Camden Yards, at Citizens Bank Park, you can walk around in center field, and you can walk around. There's like a concourse in the outfield with concessions and stuff, and that they don't have that in Pittsburgh. It's just a dead. There's nothing in center field. There's nothing in the outfield. It's just the concessions are around the infield, around the foul territory, and I wish they had it more like that. And that's the part I like about Camden. Camden is it regentrified 2 blocks of a terrible city. 2 blocks regentrified 2 blocks of a terrible city, and it is a beautiful stadium. It is the beginner of 1992. It is the beginner of the new stadiums that we have in this league, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful ballpark.
Yeah, I've never been to Camden Yards. Obviously, I can't choose PNC, even though that's a beautiful ballpark. But my favorite ballpark that I went to this summer, or last summer, I guess you can say, hands down, is going to be Kauffman Stadium. And it's kind of small, just dimension-wise. I mean, you have probably one of the biggest jumbotrons you could in the MLB. Not the biggest jumbotron in sports. I think that goes to Dallas. But it's not just a baseball field. Yes, you can go and watch baseball, and there's nothing better to do on a Sunday afternoon or Friday night to go and relax and watch a good game of baseball. That's fun, and that's what you can do at Kauffman Stadium. But there's other things to do. You got that big water fountain right around right center field. You got carousels. You got batting cages. You got slides. You got to see how hard you can throw. There's other fun activities that you can do, not just watch baseball. And I think that's just fun to do. When it's games getting a little boring for the little kids, go and take a carousel ride. Go play mini golf. There's a mini golf course inside Kauffman Stadium, which is really good. The food there is excellent. For those of you guys who don't know, I am gluten-free. Can't have any wheat. I've been celiac my whole life. That place by far has the best celiac food that you could find. And there's ample places to sit out of the sun. That's a big factor for people when they go to watch day games. Where can I go to get out of the sun because it gets hot? And I know Kauffman Stadium has a great shield to get out of the sun when you want to go and take a break. Their drinks are nice. They offer a variety of different drinks, obviously. But it's just the other extracurricular activities you can go. You can play mini golf. You can even go watch a movie, which is really weird. There's a cinema right behind left field that you can go do. And there's a lot of fun things that you could do, and you could spend a whole day there watching baseball at Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah, and if you're talking about food, when I went to Pittsburgh, it was the food options. There wasn't many, but it was still amazing. The food was good. I think this is again PNC should be a bucket list ballpark for any true baseball fan. They have all those retired numbers, and obviously you have those great players. But I think PNC they have some good food. They obviously have your standard stuff.
Yeah.
But then they had Philadelphia's famous Chicky and Pete's crab fries, which are amazing. They had Permonti Brothers, the local restaurant with the French fries on the sandwich. They had this one place called Manny's Barbecue, and I think in the outfield. So they had some good food there. And then at Camden Yards, they had these really good waffle fry, like crab sauce waffle fries, something like that. Crab waffle fries. I had them really good. So yeah. These stadiums also offer great food. Next ranking.
So yeah, and going back to this one thing that you mentioned about the food, I'm gonna also mention Citizens Bank Park. When me and you went, we had great seats, and they were only $5. They're so cheap tickets, but you still get great views. And I think there's no bad view.
Putting great seats is definitely one of the biggest stretches I've ever heard in my life. Those were literally at the fence of the building, at the top. They were at the top of the building.
Of the foul pole, but there were still good seats.
But you could still see the game, which is super important because there's ballparks in this country, like when you go to Yankee Stadium, where you cannot see the game.
Wrigley Field, depending where you sit at PNC.
Oh yeah, but PNC doesn't really have like outfield bleachers. Like it's kind of, or they have outfield, they don't have like an outfield up. It's kind of weird though.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on now to another topic. Best, I'm not gonna do best mascot because we both agree on that.
Best mascot, Philly Fanatic. Not even.
I love the Philly Fanatic. Best, let's go best rotation. Your favorite rotation.
Ooh.
Last year's rotation, not this year's. Last year's.
Why can't we do this year? We're talking this year.
Because we're gonna get into what's gonna happen next week.
Okay. Well, maybe probably there's a few teams I could go with. I think obviously the Indians have a great rotation with Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco, Trevor Bauer, Mike Clevenger. So that's a great one. And this is still a rotation that'll keep the Indians atop the AL Central and hold the Twins and White Sox at bay. Bauer was downright fantastic last year, and Clevenger was the best starter in baseball. And Carrasco...
Isn't Clevenger a reliever?
No, Clevenger started.
Did he?
Yeah, he was one of the better pitchers in baseball last year. Not the best, but one of the better pitchers. And Carrasco has been good for them for so long. Another rotation I like is the Dodgers with Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Rich Hill, Alex Wood, Hyun-Jin Ryu. And they're still looking at bringing Kershaw back was always going to happen. Buehler looks like a pitcher who's already ready to win the Cy Young. The Dodgers will continue to shuffle pitchers down that rotation. And my third best one has to be the Nationals with Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg. I'm going to say it, Patrick Corbin, even though you said don't talk about this upcoming video. Patrick Corbin, Tanner Roark, and Joe Ross. Adding Corbin just makes them so much scarier. But Scherzer's the horse, and Strasburg, when healthy, has somehow become underrated. If Corbin keep what he did this past year, that's a daunting top three. But I think there's still some issues at the back of the rotation, particularly the 5 spot, which probably won't end up being Ross, maybe Eric Fede. The Nationals technically could use another pitcher because I don't know who they're going to put in that five pitcher. But I guess, you always can have that one bad pitcher.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, yeah, there's great rotations. I think my favorite rotation, and I'm surprised you didn't say this one, but I think the best rotation last year was the Astros. And I know it didn't show.
They were probably number 3 for me.
And I know it didn't show on the in the results that they had. But let's look at who was in the Astros division. They had a good Mariners team for the most part, an Astros team that was okay, the Oakland Athletics who were really good, um, in the early part of the second half of the year. Now, who do they have? They had a great Justin Verlander, who was obviously their ace. Okay, great Justin, who so that was he obviously will you will never see a bad game from Justin Verlander, almost guaranteed. Then backing him up, a great pickup, and I really am pained to say this, but Garrett Cole. And, I still respect him, even though he's on the Astros now. His velocity's gotten up a lot. He's in the mid 96, 97 range with a great slider and curveball. In the back up, use a lefty wing, Dallas Keuchel. I know he might be leaving this team, but he was great for this Astros team, giving a lefty. You had Lance McCullers Jr., who was great for this team. And then my favorite, Charlie Morton, who's regenerated himself from coming to the Astros. He was an okay pitcher. He was a 4-5 pitcher on the Pirates. Never really had good control and velocity. Now he's throwing 97 consistently with a great slider and a great changeup. And the thing that has bought me on why this team is the best rotation is because you can, out of every single one of these pitchers, you can get at least 7 or 8 innings out of them, and that helps coming down the long run, especially comes playoff time when you don't need to use that bullpen a lot.
Agree. That is all valid information.
Moving on, let's go. I don't know, favorite uniforms.
Yeah, I'll go with favorite uniforms. So you want favorite just the home and away or alternates or
Any uniform. It could be.
I go with any uniform baseball.
Yeah.
And can it be my team?
Yeah, why not?
The powder blue Phillies jerseys are just beautiful. Because think about this. Why? Okay. Phillies, they are the only. Every team tries to do powder blue. The Phillies are the only team that does it right. Everybody tries powder blue, and sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. But the Phillies, they do powder blue amazing. Like their powder blue, I need a powder blue, but at the same time, I really don't want to put the money for a powder blue. I don't think I might have a powder blue in my closet, but the point is the powder blues are beautiful. I mean, just a beautiful jersey. There's some more traditional jerseys, but I want to talk about some of the other ones that some of the alternates that you kind of forget even exist. The Cardinals cream and the Phillies cream jerseys are both beautiful cream jerseys. I think it's impossible to improve the cream jerseys. I mean, I think I don't know. The point is they're beautiful. I'm trying to think of another one that might be nice. And the only other one that I really like is the Nationals one with the Nationals patriotic one,
Mm-hmm.
the blue one with the stars and stripes. They have a lot of alternates. I don't really like a lot of them, but I like the patriotic one. I'm not a big fan of the red one. They wear that one a lot. I'm kind of whatever with it. The new blue one they added, I'm also kind of whatever with. But I've always loved this patriotic one, so I think those are the 4 I like. If you're talking just normal home uniforms, I'd probably go with the Giants, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the traditionals.
Pinstripes. Yeah. One of my favorite jerseys, and I know this is very traditional, but I like the Minnesota Twins and the Boston Red Sox red jerseys. They're alternate jerseys. I think they just look cool and look very professional. But my favorite jerseys out of all time is going to be that Houston Astros ugly jerseys with white, orange, and yellow. That looks really cool.
Oh, the Astros?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Because it's ugly, but it still looks really cool at the same time. I have to get myself one for George Springer. But those look really cool. I like red jerseys. I think they look professional and they look really nice on anybody who plays the game.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have anything else to talk about? Unless we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I think we can wrap this up definitely.
Yeah. So that was it for today. Good podcast. It was a little earlier, so we can get it in. A lot of obviously. For you guys that are listening and watching, look at the college basketball. There's a lot of good stuff coming on, especially in the next month. Same thing for hockey. Maybe take a check-in for NBA as the All-Star game is tonight.
Tomorrow night.
Well, the skills competition is tonight. It's All-Star weekend. Basketball will be very interesting. Baseball starting up, which is great. We'll give you guys that rundown next week. I still don't know if I'm coming to Nick. If I can't, then I'm definitely going to get up during the summer or during March break. That has already been cleared. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week, unless we give you guys a video during the week, which we might, depending on the availability of both Nick and us. So we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, okay. See you next week.